there's just no way that I'm going into labor this early. Okay, maybe this is real labor, okay? My goodness. So pretty much at this point, I was telling myself, like, Carolyn, this is it. This is not false labor. You are in labor. My midwife almost, you guys, did not make it to the birth. Just us two. That corner coffee shop we like to go. Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. This has been a long awaited video for me to hop on here and record this for you guys. Now, let me be honest with you, I have been trying to film this over the last couple of weeks, and every time I wake up, which is like the best time for me to be able to get ready, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get ready, I'll do my hair, do my makeup, and while my kids nap today, I'll go ahead and record. And that just has been a little bit hard now, being a mom of two and, you know, having a newborn and whatnot, and trying to kind of figure out our schedule. And I personally thrive off of a schedule, and obviously with the newborn, they right now with their growth spurts and all that, it's kind of hard to be able to say they are on a schedule. But now that my son is a little bit older, I've noticed that he's been kind of catching on a little bit to a routine, so I'm kind of trying to kind of go off of that right now. Currently he is napping, and so is my toddler, so I decided to just sit down and record. This particular video is going to be about my home birth. I'm excited to share that with you guys in this video, so let's jump right in. Kind of going back a little bit to what I was just saying, that I've been trying to kind of find the perfect moment of that I'm able to do my makeup and my hair and sit down and have my newborn in my arms and sit here, and kind of how every other video goes, like when somebody shares that their baby has arrived. And honestly, I kind of was just thinking, I'm like, why am I trying to wait for the perfect moment where I look ready and all that, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then I thought, why not hop on here and be real and show what I look like. And yeah, my hair is just definitely not done, just up in a ponytail. I have no makeup on, and I literally just have my tank top and my pants here, and I definitely have a little pooch still. And that is okay to hop on here and be real in this way. So first, let's start off. My baby definitely came earlier than what we anticipated. My daughter came 4 days earlier than her due date, and my son came pretty much 2 weeks earlier than his due date, so definitely a lot more sooner than we anticipated. So the day I went into labor, I definitely did not know 6 hours later my son was going to be here. I did not expect it at all. So this started on a Sunday, okay? We had gone to church. I was already definitely feeling super tired, and I definitely carried a lot heavier and lower than with my first pregnancy. My first pregnancy, I had a girl. My second pregnancy was a boy. So I definitely felt the difference in the weight, and I definitely felt tired a lot sooner with my boy. And it was a Sunday. I actually serve at my church, and I was on the calendar, the schedule, to sing that day, this particular Sunday. And I was debating a lot. I'm like, should I sing? Should I not? To stand up there on my feet, and I'm like, I just cannot. I'm telling you guys, I just felt so heavy. And so I talked to my sister. My sister is actually in the worship team as well, and she sings. Shout out to Gabby if you're watching this. But I was like, I'm gonna just ask her if she can cover me. And yeah, so I told her, hey, I reached out to her. I'm like, hey, you know, do you think you can sing for me? I'm feeling just very tired. And she told me, yeah, of course, I'll cover for you. The only thing is I do need help with my son. And I told her, yeah, like, I'll watch him, you know. And my nephew and my daughter are pretty much the same age. They're only 1 month apart. And so this particular Sunday, they were just, during worship and praise, they were just dancing and all that. And I was kind of like dancing with them. I wasn't jumping or anything, but just kind of moving around a lot. And I feel like that's kind of what maybe pushed me even more so for labor to start, kind of just being active and moving around with them and whatnot. So getting home that Sunday, we got home maybe around 6 p.m. We stopped by to get some food. We came home, we ate, and then I was craving like something sweet. I actually wanted a coffee. So my husband took me to go get Starbucks, and then they got some ice cream, my husband and my daughter. After we ate, we came back home, and when we came back home, we're like, let's just, you know, be a little bit outside. By this time, it was already maybe 7, 8 p.m. and I was feeling a lot of Braxton Hicks. And for anybody who's familiar with Braxton Hicks, they don't hurt, they just feel uncomfortable. And the difference with Braxton Hicks compared to like a real contraction is the Braxton Hicks, you feel it all over your belly, and your belly just gets really firm, as compared to a real contraction, you mostly feel it on your lower part of your belly or your back. It was already between 8 and 9 at this point, and we're sitting in our backyard, and I'm sitting out there with my daughter. She was just kind of playing around on this little kiddie pool that we have. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, I'm feeling like they're Braxton Hicks, but I'm just having them so frequently. And at this point in pregnancy, especially at the last stage, I experienced a lot of Braxton Hicks because, well, most moms experience Braxton Hicks at this point because you're at the end of pregnancy, your body's getting ready, and they're just pretty much practice contractions. Your body's just getting ready. So I'm like, you know what? I just had a really long day at church. I was taking care of 2 toddlers, and I was dancing and all that with them during praise and worship, and just thought to myself, my body's just probably really tired right now. So it's around 9 p.m. and I was just really confused, and I wasn't timing them or anything like that. I was just that much confused. I'm like, there's just no need to time them. And also being 2 weeks early, I'm like, there's just no way that I'm going into labor this early. And so pretty much I told my husband, of course, I was keeping him updated about how I was feeling. And then he said, why don't you go upstairs, go lay down and see if that helps you kind of just relax your body. Maybe your body just needs to be relaxed. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And also to my husband at this point, he was already used to me these last weeks, just kind of the Braxton Hicks, and I was expressing to him how I was feeling, so he just probably also thought it was Braxton Hicks. So I just went to go lay down. We have a loft upstairs, so I was just laying on the couch, and this is the time between 9 and like 11 p.m., almost 12 a.m. I was telling my husband, you know, these Braxton Hicks are just not calming down. I just could not get comfortable, and I told my husband, why don't we just all go to sleep, let's all relax. And it was already late either way, so I'm like, we need to go to sleep already. So we all went to the room and we just laid down. And since I was having Braxton Hicks so frequently already this last stage, I was already used to feeling Braxton Hicks. I just wasn't, what was confusing me was how frequently I was having them, and that although I let my body relax, they still were not going away, which is what was confusing me. So then I lay down on my bed, and I had the pregnancy pillow, and I got really comfortable, and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is usually what has been getting my Braxton Hicks to stop the last couple of days. And I just have to get really comfortable and relax and just go to sleep. And so at this point, I'm just trying to get comfortable in my bed, trying to go to sleep. And maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I was there, and I'm like, babe, these contractions, these Braxton Hicks, they're just not going away. So my husband at this point, he was just not, I don't want to say getting nervous, but he was like, you just need to call the midwife and let her know how you're feeling. And I was like, I was kind of holding back because one, I'm like, I don't think this is real labor. I am 2 weeks still to my due date. And also, I just didn't want to, and my midwife never made me feel like this at all. It's just a humanly feeling, I guess. But I was like, oh, to call her and bother her, she's probably like already sleeping, and what if this is false? But at the end of the day, these contractions or these Braxton Hicks were not calming down, and there was just 2 back to back. But I'm like, my husband's like, you need to call her at least and just let her know, and maybe she can recommend you something to do something, right? So I called my midwife. When I called her, it was about maybe 12:30ish. Yeah, 12:30 in the morning, and I called her. She answered right away. I let her know how I was feeling, and she's like, okay, go ahead and take a bath and just try to soak in and just relax and see if that helps these contractions calm down. So my daughter was actually sleeping on our bed, so I went to go take a bath in our other bathroom upstairs. I got in there like around 1 in the morning after I was done talking to her, and she told me, call me around like in an hour, call me around 2, and just let me know how you feel after an hour. So I'm laying in the bathtub, and there's this actual Christian Hypnobirth app that I downloaded, and I was just listening to these, sitting in the bathtub and just trying to relax and just lay there. And at this point I did start timing these contractions because they were just back to back and they were not going away. So I definitely wanted to start definitely tracking these contractions. And so I'm timing the contractions, and they just were not going away. And if anybody here has ever been in labor and you start timing your contractions, there's a point where like the app tells you, okay, it's time to head to the hospital. So I was already getting that notification on the app, so I'm like, okay, maybe this is real labor. Okay, my goodness. I'm like, maybe this is real labor. And during this time I told my husband, please go lay down, go relax, because I need you, if this is real labor, I need you up and alert and to be there for me in the way that I know I'll need you there for me. Because for my first birth, like I just needed a lot of counter pressure when things started getting real serious and really just intense, and I need you to be there and with energy. So just go and relax, and although maybe you won't get into a deep sleep, at least I know you're resting your eyes are closed, so he's in the loft. We're only like a couple feet apart. So pretty much when I was done taking a bath, it was already around 2 a.m. and I decided to just text my midwife, and I told her how I was feeling. I'm like, these contractions, they're just not going away. I definitely am feeling an increase on the intensity of the contractions. And she's like, okay. So we pretty much were just texting for maybe like an hour and a half, and I was just kind of updating her on how I was feeling, because obviously we both wanted to make sure that my contractions were increasing and intensifying. Obviously a sign that I'm in labor. And at this point, you guys, even though my contractions were intensifying, I was still in disbelief that I was in labor, because I'm like, it's still too early. In my mind, I'm like, I still had 2 weeks to go. And so at this point, when we are done texting, I believe it was around 4 a.m. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. And I let her know that I would be more at ease if she were to be on her way to me, because she does live 40 minutes away, so that's pretty far. And in my mind, I was like, okay, like at least, if she gets here at my house and my contractions just go down and they go away, then at least, I didn't risk it. And if she gets here, my contractions obviously intensify, then just knowing that she's on her way in here, obviously, catch the baby. So pretty much at this point, I was telling myself, like, Carolyn, this is it. This is not false labor. You are in labor. And I was just like preparing myself mentally. And I feel like this is also kind of what helped me too, that for a big part of the labor, I was just in denial that I was in labor, because it was just so early that I was just doubting myself a lot and not trusting fully like what my body was going through and what my body was saying, like, hey, no, like this baby is ready to come out, So I think my mind was kind of distracted on that, and not really the fact that I was in labor, and trying to prepare myself mentally in that way. But this was the turning point where I told myself, no, this is real labor. And so it was around maybe so I texted her 3:40. I wasn't expecting her to get here until like 4:40, between 4:40 and 5. So it was maybe 4:55 that I told my contractions were so intense at this point. I went to the restroom. I had to pee so bad. And at this point, I'm breathing through my contractions. I'm doing like the low, like, oh, Yeah, that's like literally how you have to like coach yourself through the contractions when they're just that intense. And my husband, when my husband has to jump in, that's where I knew like, okay, my contractions are just really intense and that counter pressure is just everything for me. Yes. Okay. Okay, can you sit down?
No,
okay, sit down. Just give mommy 1 second, okay? Can you look at me, please? Can you give mommy 1 second?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So just that, like that low breathing, yeah, I know the contractions were just so intense and I had to go to the restroom. I went to go pee, and when I went to go wipe, TMI, there was a little bit of blood for sure, and I was like, okay, no, yeah, I'm definitely dilating. I'm like, please call the midwife. I'm like, please call her, ask her where she's at. My contractions are just so intense, and also let her know that I just, you know, I wiped and there was a little bit of blood. So we called her. At this point it was like 4:55ish, and you know, my husband's like, hey, you know, how far are you and all that, and she's like, oh, like I'm like 5 minutes away, I'm really close. And my husband did let my midwife know about my bleeding, and she's like, yeah, that just means that she definitely is dilating. So my midwife pretty much got here like at 5 in the morning, and when my midwife got here, she just came up, set her things up, checked me, make sure everything was good, checked on baby, and she pretty much got there when I was in my transition, which pretty much that transition is after those last 3 that you dilate. And I remember I was on all my fours, and I was laying down, I was on the bouncing ball, and I was just laying over it, kind of like hugging the ball, and my knees were on the floor, and I was hugging the ball and just kind of swaying side to side, and that's how my husband was putting counter pressure on me every single time a contraction would come. And there was a point where I was like, I felt like I was hungry. It's like this wave of hunger came all of a sudden, and I was like a hair away from saying like, I'm hungry. But literally right when I thought that, like I'm hungry, like 0.5 seconds later, I started to throw up, and my midwife and my mom just like quickly grabbed like the pads and just put it like on the floor, and I just threw up. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm literally in the final stage. So I threw up, and yeah, like pretty much minutes later my son was born. So my midwife almost, you guys, did not make it to the birth. At least obviously eventually she was going to make it, but she almost did not make it for him being born. And I do not know what I would have done if my midwife would have not got here. My husband and myself made it very clear to my midwife that we did not want to be the ones pulling no baby out or catching the baby. We wanted to leave it up to her. We did not do that for my daughter either. And thankfully she made it, and my husband did not have to, you know, step up and be a midwife as well. So thankfully she made it on time. And my daughter, you guys, it's just, they're literally answered prayers. My daughter literally slept the whole time of my labor, literally slept through all my really deep groaning of just getting through the contraction, and she literally woke up when my son was born. So can you imagine as a toddler and her little brain just going to sleep, and in your mind you're literally the only child, and then you wake up and there's this, you know, baby here all of a sudden. Definitely was in awe of every stage, you guys. I was so in tune with my body. Obviously there was a lot of doubt in the beginning, but I guess I was just more thrown off for the part that I was 2 weeks early. But definitely there was a point where I'm like, yeah, this is labor. And recognizing the stages and able to identify each stage that I was in. And in my mind, I was talking to myself of like, okay, now you're at this point, now you're in transition. Okay, and I felt my baby just, you know, coming down. I felt him crown that ring of fire, you guys. My goodness, that is just the most bizarre part, I think, of labor, is that ring of fire. And I remember just like on all my fours and just saying, it burns, it burns, it burns. And I was able to voice everything that I was feeling. And with my first birth, it was just kind of, everything is new. You don't know what is like, you know, what is what, because everything is new to you. So I was able to just know what I was feeling. But thankfully my son was born nice and healthy and came 2 weeks early. And you know what's so crazy, you guys, and how God just works everything so perfectly? Literally the week before he was born, and I posted the video here, well, I literally had a moment where I'm like, okay, I really need to get into nesting mode. I'm still 3, almost 4 weeks out, but I need to get everything ready. And I just had this like overwhelming feeling of I need to get everything ready. And although I knew I still had 3, almost 4 weeks out, I don't know, I just had really this huge impulse of just getting everything ready. So I literally got everything ready. The bedside nursery, the little, you know, kind of container of all home birth essential things that I need in there for my home birth, and washing everything and just getting everything in place. I talked to my mom, which I wanted her at my birth. I talked to my mother-in-law to make sure she's on alert to help with my toddler. And I was just so like on top of all these things, although I was so kind of like far out, but I just had this overwhelming feeling of just getting these things done. And I was able to get these things done, and literally a couple days later my son is born. So God, you know, just worked everything out. My biggest prayer as well was, it happens while my daughter is sleeping, and that literally happened. My daughter slept throughout the whole labor, and she literally woke up when my son was born. So that to me was just an answered prayer, and it was just answered prayer after answered prayer. And I just thank God so much that everything worked out the way that I prayed for and hoped for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button so you are updated on every video that I post. I will be sharing my Instagram here as well if you guys choose to follow me there. I'll see you guys next time, and remember, God is good all the time. Bye.
Make me glad to call you mine, and